How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another GTA Online video. My name is Saintsfan, and today I want to talk a little bit more about the speculated March DLC that is upcoming. We don't know much about it because there haven't been any major leaks, but I wanted to take a look back at the history of GTA Online and why it's so important. I mean, you can read in the title, every single year since 2013, there has been an update, a DLC released in the month of March. Some of them were huge, some of them were not so huge. We'll take a look at all of them in a second here, but I just want to talk about that and I guess look forward and answer that question. Will this year be any different? Will we receive a DLC in March like we have for the last 5 years, or will Rockstar decide, you know what, they don't deserve a March DLC this year? And then we can also take a look at what we should expect, like the size of DLC. I've seen a lot of people say, all right, there's going to be a Navy DLC in March. But if we take a look at all the DLCs that were released, especially more recently, you'll see that they're not that big. So we should not be expecting a major DLC, potentially like a Navy DLC in March. So we'll start all the way back in 2014. There was no March DLC in 2013 because the game wasn't released yet. It released at the end of 2013. So the first March was in 2014. And on March 4th, the business update was released. And this update was actually like one of the first updates to the game that was actually pretty good. Now, this was before they added all these businesses and stuff, so it was basically just some new clothes, some new weapons, and some new vehicles. But this update consisted of the Turismo, the Dinka Jester, the Albany Alpha, and the Vestra as far as vehicles are concerned. And I mean, the Jester and the Turismo were like some of the best supercars and sports cars for a while. And it's also funny how way back in 2014, this DLC was also released to single player. All these vehicles and weapons were in single player, were added to single player as well. With all that being said though, this DLC doesn't really matter too much because it came out in a time GTA Online was completely different. So we can sort of cross this one off the list, which moves us to the next year, March 10th, 2015, the first online heists. As we all know, we waited like a year and a half for these heists. They were scheduled or supposed to release when the game released. That never happened, but they were a ton of fun when they eventually did release on March 10th, 2015. I mean, this added so much content to the game. It was crazy, right? They had all the new missions, all of the crazy vehicles. This is kind of the start of that. The Hydra, the Kuruma, the Insurgent, the Valkyrie. This also added the Rebreather, which is now on every tryhard's outfit. So this added a ton of content, right? But I think we can also sort of cross this off the list because this was such an anomaly. Like this was not scheduled to come out in March. This was scheduled to come out way prior, but it just turned out they delayed it enough until it came to March and they're like, all right, let's just get it out there. We're not going to wait any longer. People have waited enough. So, you know, here it is. So for these first 2 years, 2014, 2015, while there were 2 DLCs released in March, it doesn't really tell us a whole lot. But then we get to 2016. On March 15th, 2016, the Lowriders Custom Classics was released. And this was a DLC that I think kind of upset a lot of people. This was the DLC that added the donk to the game. This was the DLC that added a freaking minivan that we could customize at Benny's. And while I guess that in and of itself is cool, the fact that we wanted all these other awesome cars added to Benny's and they chose a minivan, like that was something not many people liked. This also added some new adversary modes. So this was kind of early on when they were adding just adversary modes and vehicles. It also added some new weapons, but that's basically the gist of this DLC. It added, I think it was about 8 or 9 new vehicles, all lowrider vehicles that could be customized at Benny's, a couple of new guns, and a couple of adversary modes. So this definitely was on the low end of DLC updates. That brings us to 2017. On March 14th, we received the Cunning Stunts Special Vehicle Circuit. Now this update added 20 new stunt races. It added 4 new cars. One of them was the ProGen GP1. And this actually added 2 of the best sports classic cars in the Infernus Classic and the Turismo Classic. But that was it as far as content. Just 20 new races and 4 new vehicles. So again, just like the Lowriders Custom Classic DLC, didn't add a whole lot. And then last year's March DLC released on March 20th, 2018, the Southern San Andreas Supersport Series, SSASSS for short, that DLC. Now this DLC was actually a lot bigger than those previous 2. This one added 10 new stunt races. These were the hot ring sort of NASCAR races, which actually were kind of fun. But it added 15 new vehicles to the game. Some of these include that Hot Ring Saber, the Entity XXR, the Tesseract, the Vapid Ellie, the Chubarek, the Dominator GTX, the Tyrant. On top of that, this also added some new clothing items to the game, some new race suits, and it added some things to the content creator. This DLC also added a couple of new adversary modes, and I believe it drip-fed the jetpack races and some other vehicle-specific races, maybe like the Deluxo races and the Sea Sparrow races. I don't know. I can't remember exactly, but those came a couple of weeks later. So that DLC was definitely one of the bigger DLCs to release in March. So looking back at all of that, like I said, the first 2, the Heist and the business update, you can kind of cut those out. Looking, I guess, at the last 3, there's some interesting notes. 1, the Lowriders update was a part 2 to the original Lowriders update. Same thing for the 2017, the Cunning Stunts Special Vehicle Circuit update. That was a part 2 to the original Cunning Stunts update. And even last year with the Southern San Andreas Supersport Series update, that was almost a part 3 to the stunt update because it involved kind of similar things. So what does that mean for this year? Well, I guess technically it could mean nothing. But just looking at the patterns and what Rockstar seem that they like to do some sort of part 2 DLC in March. And that's why a lot of people are speculating Arena Wars Part 2. We're not going to get into much speculation on what the DLC in March potentially could be, but that's what, people are speculating. Another thing to look at is the release dates. Last year, March 20th, 2017, March 14th, 2016, March 15th. So around the middle of the month towards the end. Well, we only just started March, and tomorrow is Thursday. So maybe either tomorrow or in another week, we'll get some info on that next DLC. Now, what does make this year a little bit different is Red Dead Online. Obviously, in prior years, Rockstar never had to worry about one of the other games they made. But this year, Red Dead Online released, and they are trying to update it. But the good news for us in GTA Online is that last month, about 2 weeks ago or a week ago, there was an update to Red Dead Online. So I think we're kind of clear regarding that game. So that has been a history lesson on the March DLCs in GTA Online. What do you guys think? As always, let me know in the comment section. Do you think this year will be any different, or do you think it's going to remain the same? Will we be getting one of those March DLCs in 2019? Thank you all for watching. Please drop the video a like if you did enjoy. Subscribe for more GTA Online content in the future. And as always, I will see you guys in the next one.